Hello, I'm George Steiner. The following segment is an introduction to the basic components used for access control. There are 9 components that we will be discussing. These components are software, control panels, door position hardware, door locking hardware, card readers, credentials, request to exit devices, power supplies, and server workstations. Software manages all operational aspects of your system. All access control systems use a form of software. Software allows users to be added or deleted as necessary, allows schedules to be established, and records are kept and managed on your software. Control panels can be conventional, edge-based, or a combination of both. Conventional panels, as shown on the left, need to have all wires ran to the door with a home run back to the panel, whereas your edge-based panels, as shown on the right, typically only need a network CAC6 from the switch using power over Ethernet. Door position switches allow the control panel, whether it's edge or conventional or combination, to know the status of the door. They can notify the panel if the door has been propped open, forced open, or if there are any abnormal statuses to present. They can also be tied into an intrusion system to notify of general burglary status. Door position switches can be recessed or surface mounted. Door locking hardware is the key essential device to securing a door. Types of electrified locks include electronic door strikes, magnetic locks, electrified handle sets, electronic crash bars, and electronic gate latches. The most common of all electronic locking devices in use would be your door strike. As we go across the photos from left to right, the first photo shows what the casing or door jamb would look like if it is prefabricated with the design of an electric door strike to be used. In the third and fourth photos presented, there are different types of anti-jamming devices or ways to reduce the gap between the door and the actual frame itself, preventing someone from trying to force their way through the lock. The photo furthest to the right shows what the interior of the door jamb or frame would look like, as well as the back side of your electric strike. Magnetic locks. These locks will always require an additional power supply in order for them to work. Because of the strength of the magnet, it eats up a lot of power. What we are looking at here is, on the left side, is considered a single magnet lock. The right side is a double magnet lock, obviously used for 1 or 2 doors in the same entry and exit point. Electrified handle sets. These require electric transfer hinge and wires to be routed through the door to the actual handset. In other words, power comes in through the door frame, gets wired through the special hinges as shown on the right. That power can then be transferred over to either of your first 2 photos. This allows the door to open and close freely without any interaction with the wire to anything outside of the door, so there is less chance of someone cutting or shorting the wire at a hinge point. Electronic crash bars. These control the egress and locking in one device. It's an all-in-one type device. The way that this works is, as you can see on the crash bar on top, that there is a cable or wire that would come out of that device and will be ran back to a power supply and a control box. What that does is, in conjunction with something like a card reader, it can deactivate the lock and allow a person to pass through easily. However, without the proper credentials, the door will not open. Last, we have an electronic gate latch. Here again, usually used in conjunction with some type of card reader or credential verification. In some cases, there is even a manual or keyed method in order to bypass the electric system to gain access in and out of that gate. Card readers. There are different types of card readers: standard, biometric, pin pad readers, face detection, and combination devices. All readers accomplish the same task. That is, if a valid credential has been presented, then access will be allowed. Standard card readers. What we have here are three different types of card readers. The significance of the card reader is if you have a fob or a card or any credential, it can get as far away as 6 inches away from the card reader. Some of these card readers will be able to detect the credential up to 6 inches away, whereas other card readers require you to make contact with the card and the card reader in order for the credential to be valid. Biometric readers. These readers have two ways in which they operate. The biometric reader on the left reads a fingerprint. The way that this device works is it uses matching software to match a two-dimensional picture of the fingerprint into the database, whereas the middle and right side read the geographic ridges of the fingerprint. The downfall to the reader on the left is if a person were to make their own fingerprint, as you would see in a CSI TV show, roll their fingerprint across a piece of paper. That fingerprint can then be used to scan in as an identity or a credential for a person. That piece of paper that was just used to scan in that credential, the piece of paper can now be passed from person to person so other people can use the same credential to get into the same area. Whereas with the middle and right side, it reads the geographical ridges, the high and low points within the fingerprint to create the credential. Pin pad devices are commonly seen as well. These are used in conjunction with the specialized hinges as described earlier. Here it can be as simple as memorizing a pattern or memorizing keystrokes, memorizing certain digital conventions in order to gain access through an electric door. Face detection readers. Face detection readers map the geography of a person's face to determine the validity of the credential. As seen on the right, there are approximately 23 points that are identified with a face detection reader. If you do not meet all 23 points, then your credential is not valid. A key note: with technology advancing as far as what it has advanced at this point, there is only approximately $150 to $200 difference between a fingerprint scanner and a facial scanner. Combination readers use 2 or more technologies to grant access to an area. The most common is usually a card reader used in combination with a pin pad or some other device. Now, newer combination readers are geared more for a higher security, in which it uses cards and biometric controls. Credentials act as the verification that an individual can or cannot use to be granted access. Credentials can serve for time management to log in or out during a certain time period. In other words, it can be used for time and attendance purposes. There are several types of credentials that can be used, but they're not limited to the list below. The picture on the left is showing a key fob, a proximity card, as well as a micro proximity disk. On the far right is the interior of what a common access card, similar to what Department of Defense and military members use. Request to exit devices. These allow occupants to egress or exit without any working knowledge of a particular security system. In other words, these devices are usually used with magnetic locks or other specialty locks in the case of an emergency. How these devices work. Obviously, the push to exit button would be used in an emergency. For example, a fire or something of that effect. What you see in the middle is a proximity device. It detects when a person is within a certain range of what the eye, so to speak, picks up. The right side photo here shows what is considered a curtain detection pattern, which is the preferred method to use for egress. Power supplies. These are used to either provide 12 or 24 volt for additional power needs. An example would be a mag lock. They can either be alternating current or direct current depending on the requirements of the lock. Power supplies have fuses or a resettable surge protector to protect all of the devices in this circuit as well as its power supplies. Power supplies will be required for mag locks as well as alternative locking devices. These devices, the power supplies, also require a backup battery for power outages. Power supplies can be mounted in the main panel location or above the door in certain circumstances. Servers and workstations. Majority of all access control systems require a server of some type. The server is the brains of the system and handles all of the access control points. If the server fails, the system can operate, but only in a limited mode. Workstations are not required for most systems. However, workstations allow the end user the ability to make changes without making any critical change to system events. Some of these abilities include adding or removing users, granting access levels, compiling data for reports, and mapping usage in certain zones. Over the last 20+ slides that we've looked at, we've briefly discussed the basic components used for access control. I hope that this presentation has provided some insight to the function of each system. Thank you.